Ashton, for me, it's very important to stay here, stay us today. But it's a great pleasure to be with you again at LongeTalks. Ashton, I invite Emilio Umeoka to be with us, and expert and ambassador of Stand for Longevity Center, where today they research and study the main pillars of longevity. Thank you very much.
Great to see you again, Ashton. I mean, we met briefly at the Century Summit. Eliane asked me to ask you some questions. And the way, I recorded a similar podcast with them. Anyway, so we start with a topic that was fascinating for me, the Jane Fonda video that you produced, right? If you can tell us a little bit about it and how to gain another 7 or 7.5 years more through engaging with your community in arts. How did it start? And was it a big surprise at how viral it became?
So the video was a very 4-minute video, which I did not produce, but it starred Jane Fonda. And so it did not surprise me that it got a lot of publicity because she is very famous for lots of very good reasons. She has been a hero to me my entire life. The spot was paid for by a philanthropy that supports creative aging. And the premise of the video, which is, I have to say, very funny, is that the most important component to a good old age is social connection. And this foundation does a lot of stuff around creative aging, encouraging older people to get involved with the arts in whatever form. And it says, if you do this, you will live 7.5 years longer. I would not put it that way because it is a correlation and not a causation. And I am very careful about, I don't promise that if you take a ceramics class, you're going to live 7.5 years longer. But the fact comes out of the research of a colleague whom I'm sure you know well, Emilio, Becca Levy, yes, who is a fantastic and very careful scholar. And she has done most of the research that gets at the underlying point here, which is that attitudes towards aging affect how our minds and bodies function. And she did do a study that in her group showed that people who had, I like to say, more accurate feelings about aging, and she says more positive feelings, definitely more positive than the conventional narrative, which is that everything is going to be awful. I think it's important to acknowledge that lots of things about aging are hard, but they're not as hard as the culture would have us believe. And when we learn more and develop a fact-based narrative instead of a fear-based narrative, we do age better. We have more connection. We take better care of our health. We are more likely to go to those art classes or that singing class or that hiking expedition, build connection, ideally with people of all ages, and live longer and live better.
Oh, excellent. And you touch on healthcare. I saw on one of your articles, or maybe it was the TED Talk, ageism in healthcare costs about $63 billion in the US. Right? Can you tell us more on why it's so big? And I know there's a big challenge here in terms of coverage and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to another terrible problem in, frankly, this cruel and heartless country. We owe that $63 billion number also to Becca Levy, the professor at Yale who writes about the relation between ageism and health. And you can Google Becca Levy and $63 billion and you will find the study, or you can find it on my website, thischairrocks.com. And the cause is, by the way, that was 2017, 19. It was a while ago. And that is Correct. The estimated annual cost every
Correct.
year. So And the way it is factored, and of course it's an estimate, is that because of the price of healthcare and because of a culture that tells us to fear aging and that you can expect for your body to fall apart as you get older, and some part of your body is going to fall apart, but not all of it. And that's no reason not to take care of yourself when you are younger. The estimate is based on the failure of both individuals and doctors and the healthcare establishment to address systemic health problems when we are younger. There are very few diseases of old age. Alzheimer's is one, Parkinson's is one, but most of what we think of as the diseases that kill or sicken older people are conditions that started when we were younger, right? And if we were encouraged to seek out treatment and had affordable treatment earlier on, we would be healthier when we were older. And if we had a healthcare establishment that said, oh, you have diabetes or arthritis, here's how we can treat it, instead of, at your age, what do you expect? We would do a better job of keeping people active, keeping people pain-free. And there are often not cures. I am very, very careful not to be falsely optimistic. I happen to have arthritis and it's not curable. But I was at the doctor just last week having an x-ray, and the young woman who was the x-ray tech, who was in her 20s, she was completing her first medical degree, said I said, I have arthritis in my feet now. And she said, I have arthritis in my feet so bad that she had it operated on in her 20s. So it's so important to break this assumption, which we all do. Doctors do it, humans do it, everyone does it. Ooh, that pain, it must be just a function of getting older. And age is often relevant, but it is never the reason, because other people that age don't have that thing, right? Other people that age have a worse case of that thing. The way you adapt to it depends on who you are and the life you lead and how much money you have and where you live, not on your chronological age. So we need to, re-examine age in all these contexts in order to take better care of our health, and the government needs to fund it.
Oh, the other thing that I really enjoy was the participation of the younger or different generations, right? And you have created YODA, youngers and olders dismantling ages. This intergeneration is so important for us. And when people are asking, why are you doing this? Because this thing may take 20, 30 years. And I'm saying, well, it's not for me. It's hopefully for my daughters and for my granddaughter. The future generations are coming.
It's for all of us.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So the conception and how can this group engage and support
Well, thank you for asking. It is very much top of mind. So Old School, which is oldschool.info. I don't make any money off it. It's a fantastic site for anyone who wants to learn about ageism and meet other people who are doing this work. We have a free virtual meetup in case you want to ask me stuff later on in person, blah, blah. We had our first in-person gathering in August last in Montreal. And so one of the questions that emerged was, do all ages have a voice? And I realized, like, in the current movement for age equity, not really, right? It's mostly white, it's mostly older, it's mostly women, and we have to change that. And lots of people already, many for decades, have already been working to bring all ages together, to foster intergenerational groups, social groups, political groups. Yay. Let's build on some of those conversations and make some of them explicitly about power, because power shapes who's in the room and what we talk about it and who does the talking. And because the way age and power intersect is really interesting. There are places where younger people have more power. In general, older people have more power. We've had more time to acquire it. And younger people resent that, which is understandable. And older people resent all the visibility that younger people have because society is so youth oriented. But as long as we're stuck resenting each other and arguing about who has it worse, we do not work together. We compete. That's what all prejudice does. All prejudice pits people against each other. So Yoda is an appeal to come together and talk in carefully facilitated conversations. This stuff is complicated, right? To talk about age and power so we can figure out who has it and where and how we can use our different kinds of power to identify and overcome shared barriers. And I'm very excited that people have loved the idea. Clearly, like, it strikes a chord. We are the American Society on Aging is foregrounding it at their conference. We're going to come away with tip sheets, with guides about how to get started. You can also just get started at your own kitchen table, right? There, you can use this idea in any setting and at any scale that works for you. But once again, at Old School, because the idea of Old School is, if you can't remember how to find something about ageism, look on Old School. We will be developing, if you look for Yoda, you'll see my article that describes the idea. And we will have a zone of toolkits and worksheets so that you will get some tools about how to have a conversation around power with people of different ages where everyone feels safe and gets heard.
Fantastic. It's important to conversation and all the respect, the celebration of the ages.
And also it's complicated. No one gives up power without a struggle. I mean, what's happening in the world now is the struggle of powerful white men to have a world that works for them, and they don't want to give up their power to this multicultural world that is going to prevail sooner or later.
As we wrap, Ashton, any final messages to women or to society on things you're working on things you want them to engage?
I'll circle back to whatever I said to you, which was almost certainly inappropriate, about how you were an activist, whether you knew it or not. I think the word activist is off-putting to a lot of people, especially women. I think we all, perhaps, especially women, think, oh, I'm not an expert. I don't know enough. My partner is always telling me, you know more than you think you do. That you can't start too slow. You can't start too small. You can't start too late. Even if you take a single idea from this podcast and reflect on it, even if you think about how you use the words old and young, even if you reach out to one person who is significantly older and younger than you to do something together or to have a conversation, that is changing the culture. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. The only mistake is not to try.
Well, thank you so much for the time, Ashton.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much for this powerful conversation.